Now, it would come as no surprise to outsider regulars, but when it comes to the ABC, it has well and truly gone past its remit and instead has become an echo chamber of leftist opinion, which the problem is, if you are the taxpayer for, you may want just a little bit of balance, just a little bit, just an occasional
Radical
token
idea.
Conservative perhaps. But just how deep does this rot go at an institution that did once serve a place within the political discourse? A new documentary from Chris Kenny is set to explore just what role, if any, the ABC plays in the public debate in his new doco, Your ABC Exposed, which airs at 8 p.m. this Thursday. Do not miss it. And joining us now is host of the Kenny Report, Chris Kenny. Chris, this documentary looks the goods. I've seen bits of it. Let's have just a quick look at a clip here.
Their ABC. Does that summarise the mindset at the ABC?
Chris, I know exactly what you're saying. All I'd say is any organisation should be proud of having staff that admire their organisation. So, you know, that's not a fault.
Sure. You get emotional when you say that. Why?
Public broadcasting matters to me.
Tell us about that interview and correction this Tuesday. Don't tune in on Thursday expecting to see it because you'll be disappointed Tuesday.
That's right, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Great to be an outsider here on Outsiders. Looking forward to this doco Tuesday night. Now, what we saw there was Jonathan Shire. He's a fascinating example because he was the last person who tried to reform the ABC. He was managing director for less than 2 years, around about 2000. He finished up at the end of 2001. But in that interview there, he tears up because I say to him, look, it's not our ABC or your ABC. The staff just run it themselves. It's their ABC. And he got teared up saying, he loves the fact that the staff are loyal to it and he really believes in public broadcasting. And this goes to the point that, you know, the ABC is so defensive and so paranoid, they feel all their critics, you know, want to shut them down. No, there are people like Jonathan Shire and a lot of other critics we've spoken to. They love the idea of a national broadcaster. They just think it should be effective, it should be accountable, and more than anything else, it should not be biased.
Well, Chris, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of the problems that we all rehearse at the ABC. You know, the hit squad journalism on coalition figures, you know, from Christian Porter to, you know, non-political people like Cardinal Pell. And yet we've just come off 9 years of coalition government where they increased the budget to the ABC and did very little, if anything at all, to change the situation where it is. It's a national broadcaster for the entire nation. Is there any possibility of reforming this beast?
Well, this is the big question, right? Everybody can talk about the problems, but how do you fix it? And former director, for instance, former board member Janet Albrechtsen says very clearly, under the law, the ABC, if it just stuck to the law, that is its charter, was diverse in the people and views it showed, was objective and accurate in its reporting, then it would be a fantastic public broadcaster. All that has to be done is you have to make it adhere to the law. But neither the boards nor governments, Coalition or Labor, have been able to do that. Now, I speak to the current Communications Minister, Michelle Rowland. Her answers on this, I think, are astonishing. She's obviously not going to try and do anything to try and fix the ABC.
Why would she? She'd be mad.
Exactly. And Sarah Henderson, who's now the Shadow Communications Minister, I think we might start to hear from the Coalition a new agenda.
But it's too late.
It's too late.
Well, it is too late. As you say, they had 9 years. They did nothing.
Yeah.
And to put someone like Fletcher into that portfolio, he was just thoroughly inept, hopeless in prosecuting any sort of case. You say they're breaking the law. They're going against their charter. Now, how do you enforce those legal requirements? What needs to happen to say this charter actually means something? It's not just words, and you have to live up to it.
Well, you've got to have a board that's strong enough to say that. The board, under the law, are actually charged with making sure the ABC adheres to the Act, and they don't. They're pathetic. And then the minister...
But is there any penalties for not adhering to your charter? Is there any...
That's the problem, isn't it? There isn't. And in the end, a minister needs to be able to tell the board to make sure they make them. I mean, no one could argue that the ABC has not shown bias, green left bias, over the last 10 years. And as you mentioned, James, you talk about the vigilante journalism against George Pell, against Christian Porter, against Alan Tudge. I mean, line them up, where they ran all the delusional stuff about Russian collusion at great expense, and they never correct the record. And somebody's actually got to make them accountable, right?
But what is that? Because, you've got Media Watch, which is basically their weekly attack on the Murdoch press.
Probably one of the most ideological programs on the ABC.
All it is. You've seen the Four Corners investigation trying to prove all sorts of Trump-Fox collusion, which was done at great expense. We saw episode after episode of Russia, Are You Listening? We saw another Four Corners devoted to proving that Russia stole the 2016 election for Donald Trump somehow. I mean, this is all stuff that is absolutely insane, and yet there is zero accountability for this. And plus, you've got all these presenters on their own social media going out and promoting everything from radical trans activism to mass hysteria. How do you rein this in?
Well, how do you rein it in and how do you defend it? One of the interesting things in this documentary is the number of people we went to at the ABC to talk to. I'm happy for a robust discussion with anybody. I turn up at the ABC sometimes knowing that you're going to have the deck loaded against you, but happy to have the debate. From Ida Buttrose to David Anderson, through some of their most prominent journalists and reporters. These are people who are articulate. They're not afraid of the camera. They know how to make an argument, supposedly. They won't come on and debate the issues. They won't defend the ABC or explain themselves. So what have they got to hide? Why are they so fearful of a robust public debate about this national broadcaster that gets more than $1 billion a year from taxpayers? I reckon that says a lot, the fact that they're not prepared to engage in a debate, because surely when you talk about the examples you've just listed, their record is indefensible, and there needs to be some sort of accountability, some sort of corrective for all those errors.
But you say, Chris, that no one's ever managed to reform the ABC. Is it actually possible to reform the ABC? If no one can do it, do we just blow the whole thing up and start again?
Well, it's a lack of political will, isn't it? I mean, the law is there, the responsibilities of the board are there. It's up to governments to make it happen. But what governments have sat back and wrung their hands. As you say, we had 9 years of coalition government. It reminds me of the Monty Python scene, Jehovah, Jehovah, how much worse can it get? It's like they're scared. They don't want to antagonise the ABC because then the ABC will attack them more stridently. Well, how could the ABC have attacked Conservatives and conservative issues more stridently over the past 10 years? It would be impossible.
But it's only because they let them. It's a chicken and egg question. The ABC only has that much power because the government lets them have that much power. If they took the power away, the problem wouldn't exist.
Well, you are right. You are right. And that's why it's 90 years, this month, 90 years since the ABC was formed. I think it was probably a really important reform at the time because we had no national media. It was a radio network to bind the nation together. Now we see it's become an uncontrollable beast. I think it divides the nation more than unites the nation. And so we've got to have this discussion. If we want to keep it, how can we make it accountable and effective?
Well, here's an idea. What about the ABC operating in markets where commercial media can't compete in because there's population issues in regional areas and in the cities where we've got saturation media coverage? We don't have the ABC with its $1 billion plus per annum taxpayer funds undercutting and competing with commercial operators that are continuously sacking staff, tightening their belt just to be able to survive. I mean, they exist in a parallel universe where this money just comes in and they have not had to deal with what the rest of the media had to deal with the changing platforms that mean that those income streams aren't there like they used to be.
That's one of the things I reckon. Whether you should actually restrict their platforms where they go. I mean, they're just going as every new media opportunity opens up. Whether it's podcasts, whether it's new digital radio stations and television stations, they go out there and expand. Shouldn't they be kept to some core business and actually get that right before they expand? More than half the ABC staff operate in New South Wales. And of course, most of those in the inner city headquarters of Ultimo. It's a national broadcaster, yet it's dominated by the inner city Green left elites. And it's why you get no debate on issues that you've been talking about here this morning. No debate on things like identity politics and gender. They just pump out a line. No debate about climate change. It's just all fear and hysteria. They've been terrible on the pandemic, as you guys know. They've just been fear and hysteria on pandemic and maximising government intervention while they're all happy working from home, completely secure in their jobs. You know, it is really a travesty that we don't get open, diverse, robust debate on the ABC. What we get is a company line on all these crucial issues, and under the law, they're actually not supposed to be doing that.
And when they attack Labor, because their argument will be, well, we're just as critical of Labor, but they're attacking Labor from the left. They never attack Labor from a conservative point of view. It's a green left. You're not left enough for us.
Absolutely. They only attack Labor from the left. It's either they're not doing enough on climate change, they're not, there's not enough alarmism on climate change, or they attack the Hawke government over its support of the first Gulf War. You know, they shouldn't be supporting the Americans. So that's where they attack the Labor Party. Ideologically, they're probably more aligned to the Greens, but it's not a party thing. It's more about the ideology, isn't it? It's throughout the pandemic they've always wanted. It's the worst pandemic. The maximum government intervention is the way to do it. Don't mention where it originated. Don't mention China's complicity or the World Health Organisation's complicity. It's just such an ideological line, and it's the same with climate. It's all fear and hysteria from children through to adults, and pretending. They keep all the facts out of it. They pretend. If you watch the ABC, you would think that the Australian government's emissions reductions policies could change the temperature in England and could stop bushfires and cyclones forever. They don't let the facts get in the way of their ideological rampage, and that's what we look at in this documentary. And we get a defender or two of the ABC, although the thing I would point out that I think is most illustrative of the fact that they're caught up in their own little ideological bubble is that they won't talk themselves. They won't engage in the debate. They think that taxpayers should give them over $1 billion a year under laws that say they should be objective and pluralistic, and they just basically give a middle finger to taxpayers and do what they like and talk amongst themselves.
Well, activism masquerading as journalism and always in the one direction. Chris Kenny, this documentary looks like it's going to be fantastic. 8 p.m. Tuesday, right here. Don't miss it.